they need to be re-engineered in their thinking so that we could probably go back to basics. But without further ado, I want to take this opportunity to introduce our host, Dr. Elias Melly, who will start the afternoon session of this One Health conference on matters pertaining to health, matters pertaining to cancer. Dr. Melly, kindly come forward and take the floor. Thank you. Round of applause for Dr. Melly. He's our host. We're here because of him. Give him a round of applause. Come on. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon once again. Did you enjoy your lunch? So we are agreeing that that lunch wasn't a sedative. Okay? So it was meant. Well, that is a challenge thrown to the speakers for this afternoon. You better be as comical, as fun, as interesting as possible. We are extremely late, running a couple of hours behind in our program, and we would like, we learned from the Briton that work begins at 8 and ends at 5. The Americans drives it further. It don't have any specific time. So we would like to end this by 5 o'clock, hopefully. And therefore, I wouldn't want to talk much, but to introduce this afternoon panel. Again, when you see Melly's stand, it's always about cancer. That is the pet discipline that probably have committed, to champion on improving outcomes of cancer now and forever. This afternoon, we have a very interesting panel that is going to discuss, based on experience, what are the strengths, gaps, opportunities available to improve the outcomes of cancer care in our country and the spaces where we influence. The speakers that are going to prosecute this topic this afternoon are well-renowned people who have experience within the country and also without the country. And I'm very certain that at the end of this session, we are going to have a better way forward in opportunities between Kenya and UK in improving the outcomes of cancer care. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to call up front Dr. Mathangu from AstraZeneca. Can we clap for him? AstraZeneca has been a great partner to activities and initiatives within the country. Allow me to also invite Professor Gabriel Keegan from Moy University School of Medicine. You should clap more because that was my teacher in medical school. I'm worried he could still be examining me while I stand up front. Allow me to also invite one of the very able doctors in this country, Dr. Kibet Keitany, who is a pathologist based at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. In the program, we have apologies from Dr. Miriam Mutebi, who is one of the leading surgical oncologists in the country. Again, allow me to invite Professor Some, who is a leading physician, a teacher, a mentor, a researcher, a scientist, again, working with Moi University. She's also one of my teachers. A lady very passionate with hepatocellular cancer in terms of research, but an hepatologist and GIT, hepatobiliary, space in her practice. I would also want to invite Professor Chite Asirwa. Professor Chite is one of the personalities who you would hear his name all the way from American Society of Clinical Oncology, having been a board member, and has influenced a lot in terms of cancer care in this country, as well as training, capacity building, and cancer research, being one of the lead in establishing capacity and implementing clinical trials in this country, supported by both researcher-initiated and also farmer-initiated clinical trials. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to also invite Dr. Ajay Shah. Is he here? Dr. Ajay Shah is one of our guests who is joining us from the UK side of Kuka, and he's also going to be very instrumental in this discussion this afternoon. Is Dr. Michael Mwachiro in? Dr. Michael Mwachiro will probably join us. Dr. Michael Mwachiro is also a renowned surgical oncologist who has a lot of experience globally as well, especially in GIT surgeries. He's one of our lead endoscopists and has been involved a lot in the esophageal cancer project here, and he is also a well-renowned scientist in surgical oncology. And finally, allow me to call back Professor Richard Cohen to join this team. This is a team of power. It is a team of what? They have so much knowledge. And if you don't mind, yeah. This is a very diverse team in terms of their experience, expertise in cancer care. And I would want to begin this session by asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves and at least share with us how they've interacted with cancer care and their areas of interest. Because by the time they are invited to this meeting, they have made a huge difference. They have contributed in this space. So beginning with Professor Some, kindly, if you could introduce yourself, because I may not have the capacity to introduce them adequately.
Okay, I've been allowed to sit down because we just had lunch. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Fatuma Faraj Some, and like he's mentioned, I have worked a bit with the liver and other GI cancers, and it is through that that has made me be interested to see what can be done, because we usually see these patients at the end when they come to us, and there's usually very little that we can do. Specifically, I'm passionate about hepatitis B and liver cancer because there is quite a direct relationship in our setup. And it's because I feel also that there are things that can be done to greatly reduce the prevalence of the cancer that we have in our country. We are, as you know, we are in the middle, in the low and middle level prevalence of about 2 to 8%, which is just next to the highest, which is above 8. And in parts of the country, they go up to 10 to 13%. In the North Rift specifically, it's quite prevalent. And those are remote areas, far to reach areas. We talk of vaccination, their rates are still low. So I feel something can be done, and that's how I took interest in going into research in this particular area. Thank you for now.
more often, people think in cancer care the most important person is an oncologist. We are probably the least important because we come at the tail end when we are in trouble. So in primary health care, we celebrate, our medical and the entire healthcare workforce. That is why if you look at this panel, it has everyone. So Dr. Kibet Keitany.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Kibet Keitany. I'm an anatomic pathologist. I have been doing cancer diagnostic work for 10 plus years at the moment. Unlike my senior colleague here, I see and diagnose literally all the cancers that we encounter, from the brain or CNS tumors to skin and to everything else. Previously, I was privileged to train and to work in the private sector for a few years before joining the public sector. So I have an understanding on the diagnostic challenges in different areas, being the public and the private. But of course, I've been in the public sector for longer. My role, besides doing routine cancer diagnosis for the common cancers, is to improve access, especially to the specialized cancer diagnostics, be it immunohistochemistry or biomarker-based, as the CEO NCI had mentioned initially, that cancer is slowly moving towards precision and biomarker-driven. And also, so besides immunohistochemistry, also molecular testing. And we've worked with partners and collaborators like AstraZeneca, as you've had mentioned in the first meeting, to set up EGFR testing, molecular testing for non-small cell lung cancer in MTRH, one of the I think the only public institution that partnered with AstraZeneca. And at the moment, we have done more than 100 plus molecular testing, just EGFR for lung cancers. So that is our role, as the CEO had mentioned. We do a lot on the behind the scenes. Not many people understand. So when you hear there's a problem in late diagnosis of cancer, I think I'm part of the team that experienced it real life. When you have a lot of cancer cases that even if you were to spend 24-hour a day, you might not do them quickly because we have a problem with shortage. I think we should be sharing on the shortage later on. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm loud enough. Dr. Magan, you can go ahead and share with us where you
Thank you, Dr. Melly. First of all, I'm particularly privileged to be sitting at this panel. I would say the universe conspires because 23, 24 years ago, myself, Dr. Kibet, and Dr. Melly were in the same medical school. I sat in a tutorial with Professor Faraj and Professor Keegan as a student in their tutorial groups. So I feel particularly honored and privileged to be speaking at the panel with my eminent teachers. And it also speaks to the ecosystem which we come from, because this is a very MOI heavy, Professor Chite, Dr. Keegan, Dr. Melly. So disclaimer, the universe conspires. This was not intentional. There are no conflicts. My name is Dr. Michael Mangutha Gitangu. I lead government affairs and market access for AstraZeneca for Sub-Saharan Africa. I've had the privilege of working in the cancer space for about 10 years now, across three different multinationals, leading market access and making treatments and therapies that are thought to be abstract and out of reach for many patients in our part of the world, affordable and accessible. And there are some successes. It's a mixed bag. There are some pains, there are some agonies. But it has been a journey of hope and changing the treatment paradigms for many patients. and making treatments that are thought, life-saving treatments that are thought to be abstract, available and affordable in our part of the world. I would say that that's a brief intro about me. I work across different entities, governments and partners and industry. And that's the basis of the work that I do. We have co-authored one study that looked at the treatment journeys of patients in our part of the world across the different healthcare systems in sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mathangu and Professor Keegan.
Thank you very much. My name is Keegan. I'm a teacher, like they've said. And today I'll focus on matters cancer. Been involved in a lot of, we've worked together as well as hepatocellular carcinoma. But today I'm going to talk about something else, a silent carcinogen that we've been involved in a lot of research, particularly, like they said, we all come from the North Rift. Now, around that area, that's a maize area. That's where most of the crops for Kenya come from. And my student this morning said that he saw 4 patients, esophageal cancer patients, and you were wondering, really, what's going on? What's going on, especially in our region? Why was it so predominant? Again, I'll retract the student because he's not a student now. But then, so we wanted, Professor Njoroge talked about this morning. He talked about, there had been so many issues about hot tea. People said they take fermented milk there, mursik. But we were more interested in something else because we realized that if you look around, there's been a lot of papers on aflatoxin percentages in, in the flour around there, sometimes even very, very high percentage. And then, of course, we've always known that aflatoxins and fuminosins are associated with the hepatocellular carcinoma. But we went ahead and asked ourselves, could they also be involved? Could they also be involved in these esophageal carcinoma as well as other abdominal cancers? And then we went statistically and we realized that this could really be one of the major causes, and we've been doing a lot of research on that. We've put out a few papers on that. We wanted to understand why it's just within that region. Why is it so predominant? And we hope we'll get the answers from Professor Njoroge. But we strongly believe that there could be some association. And that, as at now in Kenya, there's, this is, we also found out from the vets that, you cannot destroy the fungus even with heat. And therefore now it's a vicious cycle because the people who eat, around there, the maize with molds are fed to animals, and then the people eat again, then it's become a very, very vicious cycle, which we think that maybe there should be a lot of education and further, studies to really understand. They've been, we've looked at a few papers from China where they have found some markers for esophageal cancer, and we are progressing in that line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's going to be a follow-up question to each one of you. Professor Chite.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I can say that I've spanned just the entire, whether it's from education and training, capacity building.
Thank you very much, Professor Chite. When the book of Fathers of Clinical Trials is written in this country in cancer care, Professor Chite's name will be, in the forward. So thank you for the investment you've put in capacity building and the work that you've done. Professor Ajay Shah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much indeed, first of all, for hosting us here. I am from King's College London. I'm actually Kenyan diaspora because I grew up in Kenya into my teens, so I'm returning home. Thank you. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Life Sciences and Medicine at King's, and I'm a cardiologist. So I'm sure you're all wondering, what am I doing here on the panel at cancer? As I was a few minutes ago. But then I thought a little bit about what I could say about cancer. I thought I would share some of the things that we have done at King's that I think have been extremely useful, helpful, and maybe can also be considered. So the first thing I thought of was the work that has been done in cancer epidemiology. So we have a large registry in South London and the Southeast, very carefully documenting all the cases of cancer in a very large population. And there's a lot of useful information that has come out of that. Obviously, incidents, but also things like ethnic variation, relationship to other factors, relationship to deprivation, and so on. So I'm not aware if there is a project like that, either across Kenya or in maybe in a region, but I was thinking that epidemiology would be a very good foundation to think about prevention. So the one area where I have personally done some work is we have been working on trying to predict the future incidence of multiple diseases. And I think that in the future, not too distant future, maybe relatively soon, it may be possible to predict individuals who have a higher risk of many different conditions, including cancer, using relatively simple information like personal information, family history, other circumstances, and especially with the ability to integrate lots of information with AI. I don't think that this is something that is too far in the future. So I haven't heard too much about prevention so far. So I think that thinking about prevention might also be very important in addition to treatment. And then the other thing that I thought of was therapy, treatment for cancer. And then that really brings me back to my area of cardiology, because, of course, in the UK and in many other parts of the world, one of the big issues that we see is the problem of cardiotoxicity, people being treated with different therapies for cancer, whether it's chemotherapy, whether it's radiation, or particularly combination therapy. And so it reminds me that when we think about ideal cancer care for our patients, we should also be thinking about collaboration between oncologists and other specialties. And cardiology, for sure, is one of those, because firstly, because people have often multiple problems, but also problems are induced with treatment. So those are a few things that I thought of in the few minutes after you invited me up onto the podium.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajay. Having a dean sit in the panel is a privilege because then beyond your role as a cardiologist, then you are, a leader in an academic institution where we have a lot of interest as part of KUKA to make sure there is exchange in terms of knowledge. And therefore, we are looking at you from the prism of being the dean at the King's College in London. Now, Professor Cohen, I'm not going to ask you to introduce yourself. You did earlier on. Straight to the first question. What has made this KUKA collaboration successful this far? What has made this KUKA collaboration successful this far?
I think, first of all, just the interaction that we actually learn. And I think someone coming from the UK and we're trying to collaborate and work with colleagues in a different medical environment, it's got to be two-way learning. You know, we have learned so much through our collaborations. And I think that is one of the main aims of KUKA, is that it's two-way learning. We understand the environment in which you're working, and you understand more of ours, and we learn from each other. And just a sort of a little comment, if I may make, on some of the things which you just heard today, which have struck me. I mean, first of all, we talked about a little bit about research, and I think Professor Lord mentioned about the importance of a research infrastructure. And I think we all recognize, and it was discussed this morning, that the clinical trials that drive practice around the world are carried out in North America, in Europe, Australasia. And as we're becoming far more refined with our therapies, we're going to find that the treatments which are coming recommended could be less and less appropriate for different cancers seen in different parts of the world. And so I think that having this research infrastructure here embedded for the hospitals here, where we can attract the pharmaceutical companies to come and carry out the research here, I think it's so important. One interesting, it's a question for you really, is that the business about communication with our patients, which has been a long journey for us, but I don't know how patients generally approach clinical trials and the uncertainty of that, and maybe outside this we can discuss that. But I think when you're running this, we've got to engage with our patients as well as all the infrastructure. Just another comment about capacity building. First of all, I was delighted to see the increase in the number of oncologists from 5 to 100, which is certainly something we've seen in the UK. And no matter how many oncologists you have, there's still more work, to be done. And as we're developing, and our patients now suffer more of a chronic disease than they did before, and therefore the amount of different treatments and the resources required will be greater. One other aspect about our resources is, and I think you just alluded to it with your pharmaceutical, with the pharmacy oncology training, is that we're recognizing that we need to bring more and more of our allied health professionals, so our nurse specialists, specialist radiographers, specialist pharmacists, and we get associate specialists who haven't been through a full medical training, but they are to a level that can deliver quite a lot of care under the supervision of doctors. And I think that reorganization of the workforce so we can be more efficient is very important. And so all these things we can share in KUKA. One other question is that, going back to research, is biobanks. Now, I don't know how well developed they are here, but our experience has been that being able to have, and it's not just collecting the tissue, but the discipline of collecting the clinical information and keeping that upgraded, and then how you use the biobank. And so these are all issues which I think we can share and we can learn during gatherings like this and working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cohen. That has been really intriguing. Professor Some, at least I have the privilege to know you've been a PI of the EPWEC study. What lessons do we learn from that study in the perspective of how can we move from pilot initiatives to large-scale impact?
Thank you for bringing that up. In the HEPWEC, let me just give a little background so that you can understand. In the HEPWEC project, which was a collaborative project between Kenya, Peru, and France, we actually looked at patients with chronic liver disease and tried to identify, our aim actually was to see if we could make early diagnosis of liver cancer so that we could have surgical resection before they're subjected to other forms of therapy. What we learned, and I think it's still happening in most of Africa, that a lot of us, even healthcare providers, tend to miss a lot of the early signs of this cancer, specifically with the liver cancer. And because you'll see the patients who have come, they have, for the last 6 months or to 1 year, been going to various facilities, health facilities, with various diagnoses. That eventually, when somebody thinks about liver cancer in this instance, it was actually advanced liver cancer, that anybody could feel it. Even the patient themselves already knew they had a mass growing in their tummy. So we learned that when we come to capacity building, when we, for cancer care, particularly cancer prevention and early diagnosis, capacity building is very, very important. And that was one aspect of the study. We did have an element of capacity building, and that's why we were able to identify the patients with the liver diseases, and some of them, most of them, unfortunately, already had advanced cancer. Some had early stage, and I'm happy to say that we had 2 who had early stage out of 59 liver cancers who were subjected to liver resection. Unfortunately, 1 succumbed because his disease was a little advanced after 9 months. And today, 3.5 years down the line, we still have 1 going strong with a negative PET scan. Did not even require any chemotherapy. So that we learned that really it's important to empower our healthcare providers, particularly the primary healthcare providers who come into first contact with the particular patients, so that they begin to think beyond the usual things of typhoid, malaria, and so on. So that really is one of the things we learned. Unfortunately for us, we just proved, like it's been said, that mortality occurs in a very short time. Our study was for 2 years, actively 1 year of follow-up of patients. And out of the 59 who had liver cancer, 74% had died by the end of the study, which wasn't really, really encouraging. So we've learned a lot, and we are still in the process of analyzing some of the data. We are also going to do the genomics as soon as we are able to get our specimens shipped, so that we can know exactly what it is. Like Higgin says, in the North Rift region, particularly Baringo, I think Cambry would tell you that. They've done a lot of work in Baringo, in Elgeyo Marakwet County, in West Pokot. The prevalence is really high. And the risk factors must be identified, because there must be something in those areas that drives hepatitis B and therefore drives liver cancer. I think I'll stop there unless there are specific questions.
Yeah, so that is one case study of a pilot, and I want to believe through KUKA we should be able to scale up these programs. Now, my question to Dr. Kibet, is Kenya ready for precision oncology? Appreciating that without pathology, that is a pipe dream. What gaps have you noticed? What strengths are there?
Thank you very much for the question. As to whether Kenya is ready for precision medicine or not, I will not answer directly, because as you, in your introduction, you mentioned that cancer is moving towards biomarker-driven precision oncology, and that is where all of us want to go. I would want to share a statistic that a global statistic that I came across recently. Of course, comparing. Comparing our partners and us. I was looking at the global pathology workforce. In the UK, the ratio of pathologists to the population, you're talking about more than 40 pathologists per a million people, meaning it's one pathologist per 25,000 people. In Kenya, we are talking about 2 pathologists per 1 million, meaning it is 1 pathologist per 500,000. So that you might, our partners might not understand some of the challenges that we talk about, because of when you talk about delayed in diagnosis, you have a suspected lesion. What is the turnaround time to get a diagnosis? For us, it can go up to 1 month, largely because of that unusual, abnormal ratio of 2 to 1 million. So there's a lot of work with a few workforce. And what that means is that the few pathologists who are available are too much engrossed in the routines, the routine cancer diagnosis, saying breast cancer, saying cervical cancer, saying esophageal cancer, and there's not much time to develop these other testings that can drive precision medicine now, like the protein-based testing, immunohistochemistry, or even the molecular testing. And I feel like the gap in the shortage of that expertise required for the development of this test is what is contributing to probably the lack of preparedness for precision oncology. And I think that also poses or gives us an area, potential area for partnership, especially with the training institutions in the UK to exchange training, especially pathologist training. I know the UK have a very nice, robust program and or training programs under the Royal College. Recently, a few years ago, we developed almost a similar training program. It's called the EXA kind of training program, covering the Eastern, Central, Southern, and Southern Africa. So for pathology, we call it COPEXA. So when we usually onboard these doctors to train as pathologists under the COPEXA, so the training happens in institutions, but then the examinations, because we want them to be standardized, it is done regionally. I think the headquarters is in Arusha. So the challenge has been again the uptake of these training programs, because I would have wished maybe the counties would be here. How are the counties also preparing? Because I know health is a devolved function. How is the counties working to improve the diagnosis in our region, because at the moment, if I use a percentage, like around 18, less than 20% of our counties just have facilities for routine cancer diagnosis. Just simple saying a cervix is cancer or not, a breast is cancer or not. So less than 20, you're basically talking about 9 to 10, around 9 counties have histopathology services running routines. When you go to the level of immunohistochemistry, you're talking about, I think, four counties, and largely in the urban areas, Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kisumu. Outside that, there's nothing like immunohistochemistry, which is very key and critical in diagnosis like breast cancer. For molecular testing, I would not even give a percentage. You know, molecular testing is what drives precision medicine. So that is also an area for potential collaborations to set up maybe genomics and molecular testing, similar to probably what AstraZeneca did for the lung cancer, to be able to do some of these testings locally instead of shipping them to outside the country. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Clearly, if you were to answer directly that question, whether we are ready, I think the answer would have been no. So an opportunity for KUKA to work with us to invest, in comprehensive pathology-based diagnostics. I know through KUKA, we were able to set up diagnostics in nuclear medicine at KUTRRH in partnership with the Ministry of Health. And radiology and imaging has far much progressed compared to pathology. So there's an opportunity here that we should build by putting a state-of-art cancer diagnostics capacity, probably in one of our institutions within the country. Thank you very much. So, Professor Keegan, a question to you is, how does climate change impact on cancer?
I'll just talk about, because that's a very, very wide question. But coming back to the research we are doing, you see, the way now environment is, you are likely to get unexpected rain. You know, the climate is no longer predictable. So that, like in North Rift, for example, like now it's very dry. And then sometimes, which is very unusual, and everybody is complaining. And then there is a prediction that it will rain a lot in the next maybe 4 or 5 months. Now, what that is going to do is we are going to have more of the aflatoxins and stuff like that. And then you're also going to get now diseases that are associated, like the liver cancer, etc. And then combined with the pathogens as well. The pathogens are changing. You know, the ones that you could really handle them, they are becoming more resistant because of this change in climate, including hepatitis. That's what things we are seeing now. And then many other pathogens, it's no longer predictable. And even the pesticides that are being used, they are no longer working. We're getting more infections. And all these combined together is leading to a lot of, we feel like it's associated with the rise in cancer cases in the tropical areas.
Great, thank you very much.
I also wanted to add something. Okay. Maybe you have not asked me, just to recap on in the labs. You see, let me just answer, like in our center now, we have a biobank in Eldoret, but it requires a lot of support because maybe within KUKA now we need to start doing some more molecular, apart from pathology, other diagnostics. And then maybe we may want to probably do sequencing as well. In the region, there's a lot of politics now, like you said, about material transfer. And I think that should be one of the areas, like if we could get equipment, like for sequencing, that would help a lot, because we have people with the capacity to actually do the sequencing around. Sorry for that addition, but I thought it was a bit.
Thank you, very important. We all know that climate change is real. We all know that business is not usual, and we have to respond and react to these challenges. Professor Chite, can you share examples that collaborations have delivered measurable outcomes?
Yeah,
and while you are at that, what have you learned from being the lead scientist and also researcher in terms of clinical trials readiness as a country?
How much time do you have? Yeah, so I'll just be very brief. So I would say that in a very huge area, and this applies to a lot of these chronic diseases, cancer is one of them. It's not an exception. In all these diseases, that collaboration is very, very important, and multidisciplinary approach to care is actually what is key to improving outcomes. And we've seen these collaborations in various aspects. So I'll start with education and training. Several years ago, we did not have any in-country training for oncologists. If you wanted to train as an oncologist, myself, I trained in the US. There are several people who trained in the UK. Dr. Melia did part of his training in the US and in Egypt. I mean, like, everybody had to go outside. And one thing I've learned about improvement of outcomes in any country is that up until you start building capacity in country, it becomes more or less a pipe dream. So you can send a few people and imagine how many people come back when you send them for training. The attrition rate is very, very high. I would tell you that some of the colleagues who went with to the US, they're still in the US. And is it bad? Of course, it's not. I mean, everybody has to go where they feel they want to work at. However, you still leave a huge hole behind if that is what was the goal of plugging that hole. So improvement in country training. We started gynecologic oncology fellowship training to improve cervical cancer care in Kenya several years ago. University of Toronto and Princess Margaret were at the forefront, working together with Moy University. That is a collaboration that delivered. Up to now, we are actually continuing. The training is going on. And some of the people, initially, we used to have faculty from Toronto come to Kenya very often because we didn't have our own faculty at Moy. Now, over the years, we have our own faculty. They are the ones running the program. Is Dr. Isura still the one in charge? Yes, so Dr. Isura was one of the graduates from the first class. Now, if you look at something like oncology nursing, we didn't have oncology nursing at the time. We established this training together with University of Toronto and Princess Margaret. So initially, we just need the initial, that initial push. And this, when people are talking about the partnership of exchange programs, those things are very huge in improving outcomes. So I think that collaboration has been very nice. There are other collaborations with pharma. We've collaborated with pharma in so many areas. When we started a program called Blueprint for Innovative Access to Healthcare, where we connect various partners. We say, if you are good at community care, if you are good in palliative care, if you are good in diagnostics, how can we work together in the same place to deliver outcomes? We did this in Meru. And for some of you who don't know, in Meru County, we actually delivered very resounding success to the extent that, and one of the measures of success for us, it's not the fact that you have several patients saved and all that, which is great by the initial team, but you have sustainability of the program beyond the initial input. And so when you look at it now, the people we trained, Dr. Shege, I think is still the oncologist in Meru, was one of the people we trained within the program. We trained several nurses that are part of the system. We actually even sat in the meetings with the county to talk about financing so that some of these things we do, you don't have to be the one doing screening from grants all the time, but you say, this is a problem you have in your own county. How can you not include it in your financial planning? So some of those things we've created, you can actually see sustainable development in some of those areas. And you look at clinical trials, we partnered with various, initially, in my first trial several years ago, it was very hard to convince, especially American sponsors, to convince them that we are ready for doing trials in Kenya. They said, are you sure? Do they even know how to follow guidelines? Which guidelines are they using? Do they use ESMO, NCCN, or ASCO? Do you even have the equipment? Are there patients even? Are you sure you're making the correct diagnosis? I mean, these are some of the questions I was asked, but over the years, we've actually proved that this can be done. And we've done more than 30 clinical trials, and we've done even phase 1 trials. I even have a phase 1 currently ongoing, where they're asking, are you able to do pharmacokinetics? Are you able to follow the procedures? Are you able to report, any of this, whether it's protocol deviations and all that? So we've actually been able to show that we can work at the level of any other institution around the world. And not only that, we've also collaborated to create investigator-initiated trials. So I think where there's a will, obviously there's a way. But one of the best things about such a gathering is that we can work from the experiences of various people from various corners and say, this is a low-hanging fruit that we can all actually work on and improve. And the most important thing that I've realized, we always need to give ourselves some specific outcome measures, because without that, we are just doing projects. Where you say that in the next 5 years, because of a collaboration, can we be able to downstage some of these cancers? If you are seeing stage 4 breast cancer, I remember my first clinic at Moi, almost 100% of these patients were either stage 3 or stage 4 breast cancer. And so I was very happy to note that 5 years later, as we were seeing these patients and doing some screening activities on the ground, we started having some stage 1s and stage 2s. There were not so many, but we would get at least 20%. And such kind of measures are very important to show whether this partnership is actually doing something along the way. So I honestly believe these collaborations are what has made it successful. And then what I didn't introduce myself initially, I've also been part of the board of directors of American Society of Clinical Oncology. And I also always think that working with some of those professional organizations and trying to steer them to the specific needs and priority areas in your continent actually also helps not only improving capacity, but also fashioning their programs to some of the things that are important to you, and not just grabbing a program from what has worked in, say, a different place and bringing it on the ground. And then obviously everything we do, embedding it in the government is one of the key things. Sometimes it takes long, but when you have some progressive leadership like of Meli and NCI, then it's possible to actually do that linkage. When we started several programs several years ago, we had to go to each county and talk to each minister of health. But now it's much easier. You can actually say, NCI, can we work in these 5 counties and can you help us bridge that kind of gap? So I can talk on this forever. So let me just stop there.
Thank you very much. Clearly, you can appreciate the much experience and impact Dr. Chita and his team has created in this country. We are, building capacity for clinical trials. It is the only way we can generate our homegrown data, in cancer diagnostics and treatment. And that is also another area where we are pitching for opportunities to, increase capacity in our public institutions. We have a Kenya Cancer Consortium that is comprised of our 6 public comprehensive cancer centers. And we are building capacities in these centers to participate in clinical trials in public sector. We appreciate Dr. Chita and the team from private sector have done great. We are learning from private sector, but we also want to make sure access to public institution to clinical trials is also there. Now, Dr. Manguda, we are at an era where the fiscal space in our country and low middle income countries in general and the dwindling donor funding, how will we survive to treat our patients? Cancer care is very expensive. From industry, what opportunities are there for innovative financing in cancer care?
Thanks, Dr. Meli. I will attempt a professorial response coming after 2 professors, one who spoke about climate change and its linkage to cancer, and one who spoke about equity in clinical trials and making them a reality in our part of the world. But thanks. On a more serious note, one, access to innovation continues to be the biggest challenge. Innovation has a life cycle, and it will always come. And the latest therapies and the latest advances in the treatment paradigms of patients, especially for cancer patients, that innovation comes at a cost, and the cost is premium. And for us to continue to have access to these treatments and treatment outcomes for our patients to mirror those that are contemporary and up to date, we would need to be innovative around how, one, we can have them at a cost that is affordable and accessible to at least a critical mass of patients and deserving patients. And we have to be innovative. So Dr. Melly, in response to your question, one is scale. It helps to have scale because scale brings down cost. If we have access at scale, or if we have a pool, then we can negotiate, and it becomes easier to negotiate also with industry and have a vehicle, meaning have a frame of reference or a form of evaluation of this innovation and what cost, and for what period and what profile of patients. Those kinds of models seem to be the best fit for our setting. The Social Health Authority and entities such as the Social Health Authority, and it helps for healthcare systems, and we've seen it, and you know, based on work that now I've witnessed over the last couple of years working in the cancer space, the models of healthcare systems that have central procurement or have a social health authority, Kenya, Ghana, are the two big ecosystems that are similar, Mauritius, Ethiopia, etc. But Kenya and Ghana are leading lights because there's a social payer that aggregates funds and is able to pool risk and pay for innovation. So that's one. Second is partnerships. No one partner can do it alone. It takes these kinds of partnerships to shape the ecosystem, because the investments in the ecosystem are in awareness, early detection, navigation of these patients, healthcare capacity building of the workforce, then having the infrastructure in place for diagnostics, next generation sequencing panels, having those in place to be able to also predict which treatments will work and which ones won't. Then having the medicines available at an equitable price or cost that then can be paid for a certain profile of patients if the affordability isn't there, if the fiscal space is not enough to cover all patients, at least a certain profile of patients, and then negotiating with industry partners like ourselves. We've taken the ecosystem approach, and based on what AstraZeneca is doing with Cancer Care Africa, are trying to close the gaps that exist within this cancer care ecosystem. But there's progress to be made, and we continue to work with our partners, the Ministry of Health in Kenya, National Cancer Institute, teaching and referral institutions, and the entire public and private healthcare delivery ecosystem. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. That is always one of the challenges in terms of access to cancer care, that we also have to figure out financing in cancer care. Despite the fact that we have our social health authority, it's still limited. We have to think outside the box on how we can address this. Now to Professor Ajay.
Dr. Melly, sorry, perhaps if you allow me, one final comment. And it's great that we have all the great minds in this room. Risk pooling and informal sector risk pooling mechanisms, informal sector enrollment, means testing, evaluation, and contributions continue to be a big challenge. How do we pool risk from salaried people and from informal sector populations that are very common and is a basis of the economy in our part of the world? Therein lies the solution. If we can figure out how to pool funds from informal sector, then we can begin to scale the problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We do appreciate that addition. Professor Ajay, we have built capacity for the country and for healthcare in general. Being the dean at KCL, we would like to move a notch higher to subspecialty training because it's very important. What opportunities are there in your institution for subspecialty training in cancer care? That after this conference, Graham Lord and Dr. Cohen, we will send you with some 5 or 10 Kenyans for subspecialty treatment to the 18 academic institutions which are represented in this country. Are there people who are interested to go for additional training? Can I see by show of hands? And when you go, you come back.
Thank you very much. We should ask you when we are looking for more business at King's. We should ask you to come and help us bring people to train, because you seem to be very good at that. So, of course, there are excellent opportunities for training, and I can comment about that. And then I would also maybe make one other comment. So in terms of training, I think many of the areas that we have discussed so far are absolutely available for training. I was listening very carefully to the discussion about pathology and perhaps some of those areas where there may be a real issue with capacity. So I think training can definitely be offered in some of those areas, like pathology, for example. Anything, I would say, to do with cancer generally, all the things that we have discussed. But I was also wondering, medicine is changing dramatically around the world, including in the UK, all aspects of medicine. And everywhere in the world, we are thinking about how is medicine going to be delivered in 5 or 10 years' time, and how do we put ourselves, how do we best prepare ourselves for those changes? And even in the UK, you know, there is an issue about access, because you have areas where there is excellent expertise, and then you have perhaps smaller hospitals, and you have some regions of the country where it is a bit more difficult to access expertise, whether it's clinical expertise or pathology expertise or imaging expertise, all kinds of expertise in cancer, but also in other areas. And I think that people are giving a lot of thought to the use of technology and the use of AI to address some of the real bottlenecks that we have. So broadly speaking, you could say there are 3 bottlenecks. One is access to infrastructure. The other one is access to expertise. And the third one might just be physical access, distance. Access to expertise, I think, is something that can really be addressed with communication and technology, and thinking about new models of workforce, because you do not need, I think the way that we think about expertise today will be different from the way we think about it in a few years' time. In my own area, I just take an example from cardiology, and you will extrapolate to cancer. In my own area, if someone is an expert in analyzing complex cardiovascular imaging, that expertise, a lot of that can be reproduced today with AI, and you do not have to develop the AI. You know, there are platforms available, and the number of patients that really need that expertise can be much smaller than it is currently. So it means that you do not need an expert like that in every center. You can have fewer experts, but what you do need is that connection to the experts, and also communication, and also, you know, ways of delivering components of what the experts do in a much easier way. If we think about pathology, you know, I'm sitting here thinking maybe there are components of what a pathologist does that could be delivered by people who are not pathologists, could be delivered in a simpler way. What you really need is that expertise. So I think there is a potential to bypass some of the steps that people have gone through around the world, you know, to get to the current situation, because it's going to change. It's changing now. At King's right now, we have this big program in cancer. It's called Pharos AI. It's a program to develop personalized care for people with cancer by integrating pathology, imaging, clinical information to be able to precisely decide on the management of individual patients, patient by patient. So it's an exploratory program. It's a large program. It's a 30 million pound program, which involves several hospitals. But a program like that will change the way that cancer is managed in a few years' time. So I think that there can be the potential to bypass some of the steps and end up with a technologically supported solution for some of the issues that we're discussing in this conference. So I would really, as a non-expert, be thinking about investment in technology, cheap technology, but very powerful technology, really thinking about AI solutions to deal with a lot of things that conceptually are simple and really focus the limited human expertise on really dealing with the things that are really complicated. So that would be some of my thoughts. But your first question was training, absolutely, yes. And the second was a comment about really focusing on technology and AI.
Okay, thank you very much. So I shall be vetting people who are going to King's College London for training after this meeting. All right? At no fee. That's the disclaimer. All right, thank you very much. Of course, we cannot ignore the role of technology. It is disruptive, and it is what has definitely increased efficiency. In fact, in our country, the lead champion of utilization of technology is our president himself. He has made sure that integration of technology in all our government services and healthcare is not left behind. We have a digital health authority that is leading in this, and of course there are a lot of challenges as we try to embrace this, including regulatory frameworks on how do we utilize technology without compromising quality of care, and also data protection and all that. So finally, Professor Cohen, you are part of initiating this COCA. What are the barriers in building collaborations and partnerships? And beyond conferences like this, how do we sustain partnerships?
I think the barriers are the ones which we clearly see in terms of finance and everything else. But can I maybe look a bit beyond the barriers to some of the solutions, and particularly some of the things which have just been said now? You were asking how KUKA can take things forward in the first question. I think in addition to the challenges, we've got to look at the advantages, and there are some great advantages in Kenya. Your age demographic is fantastic, much better than the UK. And just going back to what Professor Hamdi was saying about restructuring, it's funny when I talk to our pathologists in the UK about AI, people get a little bit twitchy because they wonder about their livelihoods. And what you can do here, when you discuss those ridiculous ratios of pathologists, you're never going to be worried about your livelihood. And so we are restrained by frameworks which are already in place that you do not have. And just as you were discussing, it's rather like mobile, parts of Africa went straight to mobile phones. You could go straight, much quicker. Scanning of pathology has taken a long, long time in the UK. And, it's much cheaper now. You can do it. And in terms of training, as we say, so much can be done virtually. And also, we have this sort of idea of capacity in training where the wise older person is teaching the younger person. Of course, we have that. But we also must appreciate the peer learning. And that's where multidisciplinary working. So when you have the opportunity to sit with 5 different pathologists across the country and discuss cases, when we can discuss our cases amongst experts across the country, that's when we continue to learn. So I think that is incredibly important. And just one other thing about cost. We just touched on cost, if I may. And it comes a little bit down to, we're talking about cardiotoxicity. In the UK now, we are looking to reduce treatment wherever we can because of living with and beyond cancer and the toxicity. And ways in which we could do that is that many of our treatments, if we talk about chemotherapy, are treating everybody, with a diffuse large B-cell lymphoma the same. Now, when we're talking about obviously the genetics, but also response-modified treatment. So the advent of having PET scanning and then reducing the treatment for people. In radiotherapy, we can reduce the treatment in people. And by targeting that, you can cut your costs. And I was always struck for radiotherapy, I'm a clinical oncologist, that in Manchester, for many historical reasons, we were giving radiotherapy over shorter periods of time than was internationally accepted from America, 6-7 weeks. We were giving it shorter. In the last 10 years, that duration of treatment has dropped and dropped and dropped. And in the past, there were countries with very few linear accelerators where the queue to have your treatment was so long because you're treating them for 6 or 7 weeks. We are now treating people for shorter periods of time. We can use our equipment more efficiently, which also saves costs. So the challenges are there in terms of if you're talking about how challenges for KUKA, understanding each other's medical environment. So we're not suggesting things which are totally inappropriate. But I would say more than challenges, there are the opportunities. And one final thing, if I may, just about KUKA, we've talked about how it works well together. I really foresee or hope for an opportunity where we can be a bit more political, where we can, as an organization, be able to approach government, other funding organizations with a string of very exciting projects which we take together to look for funding. Because that's one thing, from my perspective, that KUKA hasn't managed to do, is develop its own funding stream. And when we think of the opportunities here, we talked about diaspora, Kenyan diaspora, UK diaspora of Kenyan origin, to go to those groups as well as other funding bodies with exciting projects which come under the banner of all of us, where we have vetted the project, we're happy it's a good one, it's an effective one. And I think if we could, that would be a very important next step for KUKA.
Great, thank you very much. Can we clap for Professor Cohen? I think no one could put it any better than that. This discussion is very interesting. We would like to go on and on and on. But can we look for additional opportunities in future to engage these experts and others? I'm going to give us one or two burning questions in the spirit of inclusivity, in the spirit of equity. I do not want to be the monopoly of asking questions. One burning question. Okay, so one lady, one gentleman, and that will be it.
Thank you. It has been an honor to really sit here and listen to all the advancements that we have made in our country. I feel very, very, very proud to be part and parcel of this country as far as cancer is concerned. However, I have got one burning concern. We have placed a lot of emphasis on diagnosing and treating this condition. Yet we know that it is rising in a manner that we cannot understand. I wonder whether it will be worth our while also to pause and put a similar amount of resources into finding out why are we having this situation. A couple of years ago, a patient of mine asked me the question, Daktari, this medicine that you're giving me, how is it going to deal with the reason why I have cancer in the first place? I couldn't give her a response. Could you give us a response?
That is a very, very, very big, probably cooker should begin from there. That is why we are in an alliance. We need to answer that question. Who do you direct that question to among the panelists? Well, in the interest of time, I'll ask who is seated at the middle. So that will be my criteria. Professor Keegan. May.
I don't think there is really a direct answer for that, but I'll just try to, because that question has come up all the time. But we agree that there's been a rise in the number of cancers, but we must also understand that we've also improved as a country by ways of diagnosis, so that many of the pneumonias, typhoid, and whatever may have been cancer. So we have really improved on that. So that has contributed. But however, like any other country, there are so many ways in lifestyle changes that have been, that we have made that traditionally were not our ways of living. And I think that has really contributed, because scientifically, there are ways which we, of course, understand, just like any other disease, like diabetes has been on the rise, hypertension, etc. So that would be a direct answer, but I know it's a very difficult question. For each cancer, there has to be each specific, that's what I'll do. There are specific causes for each cancer, for the rise of each cancer. Whether it's infection, whether it's, because it depends on the association of the particular cancer. Some of them are associated with, like Kaposis, for example, Kaposis, sarcoma, and HIV. Like some, we talked of hepatocellular carcinoma. So I think each is more specific, and there is a story for each cancer. So sorry about it. I could not answer your question. Maybe if somebody else would.
Just one very, very quick point on that. I agree. It's embarrassing that we spend so much on treatment and so little on that. There are all sorts of reasons. One of them is very, very difficult. You've got to run huge clinical trials. most of them are negative, and so the motivation to run those trials is far less than it is for therapeutic medicine. But here's another way where Kenya can leap forward. While we're still spending all our money on treatment, you guys can start looking at innovative prevention trials, which could really make a difference.
Great. I think that is our first agenda for Cookup post this conference, to answer that question. During the 5th Cooker conference, we will have answers for you. And it will be presented by Lord Graham.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Nyamoya from Egerton University. I have a couple of questions. They may not all be answered, but they can be food for thought. One, now that cancer is a problem all over the place, and we have social health authority, and with this Cooker Alliance, can't we think of making diagnosis routine checkup, just like we do to mothers pregnant for HIV? It's better if we invest in that. We'll have discovered these cases very early and end up sorting them out in good time. Food for thought. And maybe think of rapid tests that can give us these answers. Number two, he said we have just about 100 oncologists in Kenya, a country of 55 million people. That's roughly 1 for 500,000, something like that. Can't we think of maybe with this alliance, start a course, call it a degree course on oncology, right from bachelor's. They do a few of those basic gymnastics like anatomy, physiology, and blah, blah, blah. By the time they are in 3rd year, they start going the oncology route. All their practicals, all their attachments, all their internships go oncology. By having sandwich degrees between Kenya and UK. Most of our people really appreciate having a degree from UK. So what will be wrong with me having a degree written, University, Egerton University, and King trained here and there, and then with the online learning, we can actually do some of the lessons online. We can even do a practical online. Just cover the patient's identity, have the students sit here with a video, go through the process with them. They will have been trained. They don't have to go to UK. Occasionally, when you get time to visit Kenya, come and give lectures. That way, we could have had a very good training without much expenditure. We will have more capacity faster, and that way we can talk about food maize, having veterinarians, having sociology people, having environmental experts, so that we work together at some stage to be able to either prevent or help in managing these conditions than leaving it to medical experts. Thank you very much.
I think our Don from Egerton University has challenged us, and we have taken the challenge. I want to believe that most of your comments were remarks to improve or to consider what we can do going forward. It is extremely visible. I want to respond to your last question on, an all-inclusive approach in cancer prevention. It is the reason why the National Cancer Institute of Kenya was created. If you look at the Cancer Prevention and Control Act approach, because in terms of prevention of cancer, all the risk factors are not in health. It is not what these experts are dealing with. It's in agriculture, it's in energy, it's on feasibility of training, and I think I would like to ask Professor Some, probably he's among the senior, on whether there is feasibility and how we can integrate routine testing for cancer care.
I have to think a little hard. currently with the technology, with virtual platforms, trainings can be done, not necessarily people traveling to that country. I'm sure you are probably aware that there are a lot of trainings that we undertake, or some of us have undertaken through virtual learning platform at the University of London, a lot of BScs in ID and so on. So there is that possibility, and I think if one explores more, then you could find that for a particular course, you don't have to be there throughout. Maybe you might need to go there one off time to maybe defend a thesis if you did one, and so on. As to the way forward in terms of training, there are a lot of trainings that are also going on in Kenya. If you explore, you'll find that like in Moi University, for instance, we have 3 programs in cancer training at fellowship level. Gyne oncology is one. Pediatric oncology is the second one. And medical oncology is in the process of being done. I think the only problem with that is still a challenge with the facilitators or the lecturers. But I'm sure in the other universities or institutions, like Nairobi, which is one of the oldest medical school we've had, they have a lot more of the fellowship programs. And all these are courses we used to have to go abroad to train in. So I'm sure it's there, and more are in the process of being developed. My colleague here talked about the EXA program. The EXA program is a postgraduate training for East, Central, and Southern Africa, and it has several tracks. The surgical line has already got fellowships developed in them. The medical one, we are still doing fellowship or membership like they do in the UK, but we are going to develop fellowship trainings. And the first one we'll have in medicine. If you're interested, you can start looking. It's not in cancer, but it's in rheumatology. But I'm sure even the cancer ones are going to be developed in due course. So you'll see that as much as, yes, it was good to travel and see the experience there, you can do the basic course here, and then subsequently, some are integrated so that you spend several months in an institution in the West, because we don't have all the facilities. And in this particular one, we haven't developed the cancer one that much, but we have cardiology where, like in Moi, we train cardiologists and they do 6 months in US and finally train through our university. So opportunities are there and opportunities are coming. And if we are going to expand this collaboration, particularly into training for CACA, then training in oncology, specifically infectious diseases and so on, things that are still common in our area, should be possible. I think that's my contribution towards that.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for her? On the quality of the trainings, of course, as a country, we have our regulators, Commission for University Education, Kenya Medical and Dentist Council, and the other regulators, if it's a clinical officer or nursing training, because we do not want to compromise on quality as we develop newer training programs, and that will inform what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue this discussion in other fora in future. The National Cancer Institute is hosting World Cancer Leaders Summit next year here in Nairobi, bringing all the big boys, all the big players in cancer care globally in Nairobi, and we look forward to engaging KUKA as part of that. And I'm sure there are going to be opportunities to expand this alliance
And we are also happy as a country to have benefited from the Samba study, the Grand Cancer Challenge funding, Kenya being one of the few chosen countries to benefit from 25 million US dollar grant on improving, cancer prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, focusing on breast, prostate cancer, cervical cancer, and esophageal cancer. And we're really grateful to the team of academic institutions from UK and US for choosing to invest these resources in our country. A round of applause for my esteemed panelists. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, that is the end of our session.
Thank you, thank you. Big round of applause for this team. We have learned so many things on the curative side of cancer, the technology, the level of research that exists there right now. We're very happy that these pressing matters and compelling matters of this disease is being addressed by a team of experts from UK and from Kenya. So we now move to what we call the convergence session, where we bring strategies for preventive and prevention of cancer. So we're talking to entrepreneurs from the side of investment. We're talking to those who have been engaged in this field, who are part of our landscape here in Kenya, of herbal medicines, botanicals. We're talking to those who are engaged in organic farming in this country with solutions that speaks to mitigation of the incidence of cancer. But we have a mandate. KUKA has a mandate, and this mandate comes from the highest authority in the land. And that's why we have Dr. Meli here, because he has been mandated on behalf of the Kenyan government to be here with us today. It's a very, very powerful mandate. I'll just read you a section here that speaks to the mandate. On Tuesday, the 28th of February 2023, President William Samoei Ruto, in his capacity as chairman of the Republic's apex policy organ, chaired a meeting of the cabinet at State House, Nairobi. The cabinet, which is the highest executive authority in the Republic of Kenya, issued the following decision. In addressing the health of the nation as part of the administration Universal Health Coverage Plan, Cabinet approved the development of centers of excellence for health education and training, seeking to improve cancer care in Kenya, as well as the exchange of healthcare workers between Kenya and the United Kingdom under the Kenya-UK Health Alliance framework. That's where we sit. As a first step towards actualizing these measures, Cabinet observed that the treatments and research of non-communicable diseases, respiratory diseases, sickle cell, malaria, HIV, mental health, and cancer care and treatment would be delivered through Kisii University, Egerton University, Maseno University, Masinde Muliro University, Kibabi University, and Bomet University College. This is a resolution. This is a founding resolution of what we do in this room over the next 3 days to execute this mandate. These 6 universities, Western Lake and South Rift, cancer, non-communicable disease, sickle cell, HIV, mental health, Cabinet decided, not hope, not suggested, but decided that Kenya would build centers of excellence in health in partnership with the United Kingdom under the KUKA framework. So this conference is not a meeting about that decision. It is the delivery of this track on investment, which we are now introducing to you and we'll grow it over the next few days. In the interest of time, I would like to call one or two panelists who are here. Do we have architect Peter Njeru in the room? Please step forward here. Do we have someone on botanicals who is here? Marie Mumbi, please come. And do we have Mr. Ami? Is he also in the room, Mr. Ami? Do we have Robert Karanja in the room also? Robert, are you here? Very good, please. I know you've waited patiently to do your pitch, Karibu Sana. But whilst they are engaging amongst themselves and introducing themselves for the first time, let me take this opportunity to introduce Madam Kuna Shah. Please be upstanding and give her a round of applause. She is the Deputy Country Director of the UK government in Kenya. Please, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think I'm between everyone stretching their legs and everyone closing their eyes. So I think let's do a quick stretch. Yeah. You feel free to raise your arms. Yeah. Yeah, we can have a little dance. World Cup's going on. Okay. So I think we've had a great session. I think we've talked about local manufacturing. We've talked about capabilities. One thing that I haven't heard anyone ask is, where's the investment? What is the investment infrastructure part of the mandate? And let me place that mandate inside the investment landscape that UK as well as the Kenyan government places in front of us. The Kenya-United Kingdom Strategic Partnership 2025 to 2030 commits to one of the £1.5 billion of UK-aligned capital to Kenya across the trade, investment, and development. Health and life sciences are explicitly named within that partnership. This is not aspirational. It is a bilateral commitment, signed and active. British International Investment, BII, holds a dedicated Africa portfolio with health sector exposure. Also, we have UK Export Finance, maintains sovereign and project finance instruments applicable to health infrastructure in Kenya. The Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, has active health investment programming in this country. Not the least, Kenya, for its part, has 3 operational specific special economic zones at Naivasha, at Dongokundu, and Konza Technopolis, with regulatory frameworks specifically designed to attract pharmaceutical manufacturing, medtech, and health innovation. The Shah Authority has restructured Kenya's healthcare financing, creating a revenue architecture that changes the investment calculus for private health facilities, diagnostic labs, as well as health technology providers. And Africa, not to forget, the continent, imports over 70% of its medicines and medical equipment. The domestic manufacturing gap is not a problem. It is a business opportunity, one that Kenya is positioned to lead. For me and for us, the capital is available. The mandate is clear. The market is here. The question is whether we have the discipline to connect them. Thank you. I hand over to Errol.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Kuna Shah, please. They have supported us throughout. Now, you know that we are legitimately, we're children of 2 governments, the UK government and the Kenya government. You've heard the mandate, it has been read. Now, the opportunity we have now to engage a group of panelists, and really, it'll just be a teaser what our brother, Dr. Shemkola Kionjo, as we move forward to tomorrow, where we'll have more on the investment track. The investment track is in 2 or 3 different parts. The first part, we have plenary speakers talking about the investment climate, and the opportunities. The second part is a diagnostic approach of what these opportunities are. And today, the team here, and they'll introduce themselves. This is Robert Karanja. Wave to them and say hello. And then architect Peter Njeru, who is a green architect of known repute. Mumbi Geraldine, she's a young entrepreneur doing things in the space of botanicals. And then we have Ami Israel here, our brother, who is working on organic food production. And then we have Madam Anne Musuva. Yes, thank you, from the Professional Health Association. Is that correct? I got it right, thank God for that. So we want them to introduce what they have to offer to this plenary session as a panel, and then we'll pick it up tomorrow in the deal room as the business investment track gets more traction. So thank you very much. Robert, please introduce.
How much time do we have? I won't, but it's just that you need to hold me to account. Okay, thank you. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Robert Karanja. I'm a biomedical scientist by background. Been working in the health R&D space for the last 23 or so years, initially at Kenya Medical Research Institute. But the reason I'm here is because of my company called BioLinks Africa. We are the very first biotech venture studio operating within this region. What do we do? We are solving one big problem, which is Africa's health security. Well, if you look at where we are today, and from some of the conversations that have already gone and we've already had before me, we're in an era of precision medicine. Precision medicine in pharmacogenomics, precision medicine in the discovery and development of drugs and vaccines and diagnostics. And it's very sad to note that out of all the genetic data that's available to the industry for the development of all these health technologies, African DNA is less than 3%. So it basically tells me that as we go on and as precision medicine continues to go into the mainstream, we have a big problem ahead of us, where whatever comes out of the product development pipeline might or might not work for the African population. So how can we address it? I think we have an amazing opportunity, because it also so happens that the African genetic diversity is the highest within the human race. And it's possible to actually flip our situation from being a challenge into a solution by building an ecosystem here for innovative biotech. And that is what BioLinks Africa is doing. So we've established the capacity for whole genomic sequencing, high performance compute, in order to be able to do biomarker discovery and development, based right here in Nairobi, Kenya. And we are bringing this platform we're basically looking to launch it next month. So far, what we've done is to be able to install a NovaSec X Plus, which is an Illumina high throughput platform, and a high performance compute, 5 petabytes of computing and storage capacity for genomic data, and also working with innovators. So we are not just building this capacity for us, we're also opening it up to innovators to come work in our labs through our in-residence program. We work with them in inventing solutions, and as a venture studio, we're able to invest in them and take the ideas to market. We already have our very first product, which is a liquid biopsy product. We are just now concluding the patenting of this in the UK. And just to let you know, we also registered in the UK. And we're looking to now pick up the venture building aspects in the UK to leverage the conversations in terms of what can we do as a country, how can we come up with solutions, not just for us, but for the world. I'd welcome you to come and join us at BioLinks Africa. Please check us out on the website. It's bio and LINX Africa.com. And you'll be able to see how we can be able to partner. Thank you so much, and looking forward to some deliberations tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Round of applause. Round of applause for Robert Karanja, and unveiling a wonderful opportunity to engage in the business with BioLinks. Can I call on Marie to come and make her pitch, please? We were often worried that we were ignoring the youth in this conference, so we had to take this young lady from where she was and make sure she came here. She's an entrepreneur in her own right, and she's engaged in the botanical aspects of healthcare, and she will give you her pitch on it. Thank you. Marie, you got 3 minutes? Thank you.
Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mumbi, and I would be lying if I said I was a doctor, but I am healthcare adjacent. For the past 6 years, I have operated or worked as a natural skincare formulator. And this journey started with the incessant acne and skin as dry as the Sahara Desert. And then I embarked on the journey to find natural solutions for my acne and my dry skin, which in the end tied back to healthcare. Why? PCOS and ichthyosis vulgaris. After 6 years of running my natural skincare business, there's one thing that bothers me. I was importing ingredients from South Africa at an exorbitant price. And I'm like, why don't we use our own resources? Botanicals grown in Kenya, right? We say we run a natural Kenyan skincare brand. We're the farmers, we're the doctors, we're the insights. Secondly, botanical knowledge. Our great-grandfathers did not have ChatGPT or Google to learn about botanicals, right? Our botanicals harness so much in terms of either skincare, healthcare, and this is a great opportunity that we're leaving on the table. We don't do enough, right? The same Maratina that you drink can be applied in healthcare and in skincare. So I think there's a great opportunity there. If you look at the tea that we manufacture, the tea is dried, sometimes processed, and then shipped out. What if we could make extracts? Not only extracts for our skin, hydration, barrier repair, but also medicine. So what I'm trying to reach at here is that everything operates in silos, right? A farmer farms, a skincare manufacturer formulates and manufactures a product, and everybody just does what they need to do, but there's no innovation. There's no harnessing of knowledge and using that knowledge to innovate across wider industries. So rather than just thinking, okay, she makes body butters, why don't we talk with healthcare specialists? Why don't we talk with farmers and see how we can align our capabilities to then help ourselves and even show up on the global platform to produce great products? I hope I haven't used all my 3 minutes, but that will be all from me. So thank you.
Give a round of applause. This is our talented young people coming to the forum. Thank you. I think Mr. Ami, please, the floor is yours. You have a 3-minute pitch because the investment forum is open to you from tomorrow, where you can make your pitch on your preferred investment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ami, formerly known as the Veggie Man. For those of you who are into the music industry, I am the Veggie Man, the musician, also known as the Organic Ambassador. Now, I found this really, really interesting. I love what was presented. And one of the things that I know many times gets overlooked when we're speaking about cancer is the cause. So we got to get to the cause. And so my arena that I function in is organic agriculture. Now, there's so much to speak about what happens in the agriculture space, but in terms of educating our people and letting our people know how to begin to return to farming in a regenerative manner, where we're treating the soil as a living organism, where we're empowering the youth and teaching everyone, not some people, but teaching everyone that there's no culture without agriculture. So some of the issues that we are facing, some of what we see our people suffering from, some of these, the root causes go right back to how we treat this land. Because if we put chemicals in it, we're putting deadly chemicals into our bodies. If you're putting deadly chemicals in the plants, you're consuming those chemicals. And it's a known fact globally that quite a number of the chemicals that are used in the agriculture space are carcinogenic. So as ABI Organic Agriculture, not only do we provide organic agriculture solutions and develop farms, but this season we have delved much deeper into empowering the people and building capacity so that our people can build and protect themselves. So the focus for this season is really teaching not just the youth, but women and those who are exposed, who might not have the resources they need. So we're empowering the people as much as we can. So we're building training center, the first one in Limuru, which we're going to be pitching about tomorrow. And we want to exponentially multiply that so that we begin to really impact the masses by helping our people protect themselves. Because, and I'll be real brief, because one thing we know for sure, we have a motto, we say, love the land and the land shall love you in return. So when we teach them how to love this land and give back to her, not just to be thieves. You know, modern agriculture, we behave like thieves. We come take, and expect tomorrow you're coming back for some more. If you came to my house and you keep taking after 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, when I see you coming, I'm going to close the doors. Literally, I close the doors and the windows, or when you knock and tell the security, tell them nobody's home. Tell them nobody's in here. So the land is actually doing that to us. When the Bible says, the land shall not yield its increase unto you, we're teaching our people how to make the land yield its increase unto you, so we begin to farm in a more godly fashion, doing it in a way that pleases God and pleases nature. So our focus in terms of giving our people what they need, not what you want, but what you need, is the approach that we are taking. So Errol, we thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Thank you guys for being here. And we look forward to sharing so much more about this tomorrow and begin to really step into what we know is some real strong empowerment for our people. Thank you.
Round of applause for Ambassador Ami, the organic ambassador. Thank you, thank you. And he will be pitching more on his preferred investment. And as we think about creating medical centers of excellence, we should also be creating in each and every county organic agricultural centers of excellence. Yeah, we need to look at preventive measures and reduction in the use of these toxic chemicals that are coming in. They will leave Europe as Hans or maybe Fred and arrive in Kenya as Kamau or Nyango. Yeah, nothing has changed but the name, and we're consuming of it. And these are some of the things that where sensitization is required. So thank you, Brother Ami. Madam, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Ann Musuva. I'm from the Kenya Healthcare Federation, where I serve as a CEO. So unlike the rest of my panelists, I'm not here to pitch a particular business. I'm pitching Kenya as an investment hub. So Kenya is my business for today. So for all of you, both local and investors from the UK, why should you invest in Kenya? Why should you invest in Kenya's healthcare system? There are very many reasons, but perhaps those that I'd like to highlight around Kenya's business environment. As you all may know, number one, Kenya is the 6th largest economy in Africa and the largest in East and Central Africa, with a GDP of about $147 billion. Our growth rate is 5% per annum and improving, and all this is anchored on Kenya's strong political and economic stability. Kenya also has a strong human capital workforce that is educated and highly entrepreneurial, and our median age is 20 years. So about 50% of Kenya's population is less than 20 years, and the other half is about over 20 years. Now contrast that with the UK's median age of 40 years. And so you can see that if you really want to invest, whether it's in the manufacturing industry, whatever you want to invest in, the workforce is here in Kenya. We have a young, agile, educated workforce. In terms of market access, Kenya has a sizable domestic market of 58 million Kenyans and counting, and growing rapidly compared to other economies, especially in the global north. And Kenya is also a gateway to East Africa and the rest of Africa. I'll actually have you know that Kenya is the largest economy in Africa that does not depend primarily on minerals or on oil. So let that sink in. Kenya is the largest African economy that does not depend on oil or minerals. So our economy is largely, focused on services, agriculture, and the financial sector. In terms of infrastructure, Kenya has the largest port in Eastern Africa, that's in Mombasa. We actually have a really robust, integrated logistics system, from rail to roads. We have a huge road network. We have Kenya Airways here, and our airline is also the hub in terms of East Africa. Kenya is strategically located, so for whether you're positioning yourself for Kenya itself or for the region, we are really a regional hub for business and also for diplomacy. We have quite a number of UN headquarters here. We also have a business-friendly environment, and also our people are very friendly. Most people who come to Kenya, when you ask them what they like about Kenya, they'll tell you that it's the people. So we are top tier ease in terms of conducting business. So in terms of our farmer market that some of you may be interested in, it's a huge market of about $1.2 billion, and demand is increasing, in particular for oncology products, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, and so on. And this really just goes with the way that in terms of urbanization, we are living longer as well, and therefore the chronic diseases are also catching up with us. I see my moderator looking at his, his watch. I'll pause there, but Kenya is open for business, and the Kenya Healthcare Federation is here to support you. Asante.
Round of applause. Thank you very much. And looking at you with affection, because you're doing a great job. And, we in Kenya, I think now you're getting the idea of what we have available in the investment track. And we'll migrate that perhaps to a deal room tomorrow, where you can hear more substantive pitches and more database pitches. But just to ensure that our brothers and sisters from the UK know that we're also visionaries, we carry vision. Architect Peter Njeru is here to give you his take on what we have been envisioning for many years in establishing medical cities in various parts of the country. Thank you, Architect Njeru.
Thank you. Thank you so much, King. I've made a brief presentation, if you allow me to have it displayed. I hope you'll be able to display the PowerPoint. It's just a few slides. But as an introduction, I'm a sustainability architect and decarbonization expert. Probably saying that I was also trained in the UK for my master's in architecture. And over the years, I've been able to work on various medical facilities. Actually, all this discussion that you're having today, how do we accommodate that within the framework of the built environment space? And so that's why I'm here to briefly present a medical city proposal that it's one of the 4 that I'm currently working on. This is a medical city that is located on some 4,000 acres. Not far from where we are. So it's a medical city that is located on 4,800 acres with the estimated bed capacity of 4,000, level 6B, which is an integrated medical city with teaching and referral facilities. and expected investment value of about 4 billion US dollars. Next. So why do we need to have a medical city? One is because of the population surge. Kenya has an increased population. Now we are about 55, projected to be about 85 million by 2050. We have the rising disease burden. We have serious medical tourism loss. We have and research deficit. Of course, these are some of the points that have been brought out during the presentations that were presented earlier. Next. I'm working on. It's supposed to be a world-class medical city that is beyond a hospital. And the main mission of this medical city is to provide train healthcare professionals, specialists, and researchers, promote preventive health, rehabilitation, and innovation, and implement climate resilient. A few projects I'm working on that have a projection of 150 years, and creating them to be resilient over a period of time, looking into the issues of climate change. Okay, so why Machakos? Machakos has many advantages. It's only 50 kilometers from the Nairobi CBD and 35 kilometers from the main airport. 20 kilometers from Konza Technopolis, and also not very far from the standard gauge railway, which is right here at next. In terms of the master plan, this is the site, the 4,800 acres. It has many hospital, we have the green spaces, we have the mortuary facilities, we have the teaching facilities, and all these have been integrated within a greener framework. So you architectural representation of how these buildings will be. For instance, the hospital core, it will have very robust courtyards, taking into consideration a number of climate. We have the education facilities, we have the research and future expansion, as well as the commercial zone that is all within this master plan. Next. And cancer care, which is the key discussions in these 3 days that you are here, but it will also have cardiovascular sciences, neurosciences and trauma, women, maternal and child health, renal public health, rehabilitation, and sports medicine. Next. So in terms of the healthcare aspects, it will also have the education aspects, research aspects, innovation, and economic impact. For instance, in terms of healthcare, it will be aligned to the UHC coverage that we have, and also it will have the telemedicine outreach. But in terms of also innovation, it will highly focus on AI that you're experiencing now in Kenya. We have lost the slides. I have 2 more slides to go. Sorry for the timing. Anyway, the remaining slides were purely on the budgets. As I mentioned, these are $4 billion US investment in this space that is into the future of the medical space within our country to proudly invest in this medical city. More information.
Thank you. As I said, we're not going to belabor this session. It is a kionjo, it's a teaser. It's to prepare you for tomorrow, where long day, and I want to thank you all for being here, really. You've been very patient, and it doesn't matter. I think we need a bit of time just to network, sure that we've kept to the schedule. We had promised to finish by 5:15, but we've taken the benefit of the European Academic 15, where you're allowed to be late. So kindly, there's plenty of refreshments outside for you waiting. And please take time to network, to get to know each other. So tomorrow night, breakout sessions where the investment track can be more thoroughly interrogated. So thank you very much. Thank you. Can we finish with a word of prayer? Elder, could you pray for us, please? Manoa Episu, how are you, sir? Please, yes, come, let's recognize him. Thank you very, very much. Aren't we lucky? Dignitaries here. We would like John to have a closing say and guide us as we go forward tomorrow. Thank you, John.
Thank everyone for your time and for honoring our invitation to be here. As part of the Secretariat, we do apologize for the mishap and change. Other than that, we will request that those of you who have not received this tag like mine be slightly different arrangement to today. Other than that, I would like to appreciate, I'm sure it's been mentioned, High Commissioner to London, in whose shoes and leverage this alliance has been built. I remember spending many to make sure that Kenya has a strategic partnership with the UK. So it's my great honor to see you here and for the strides we have had for the last 5 and the new members, just to appreciate. We didn't have time to appreciate you in the morning. Thank you very much. And finally, I want to thank our brothers and sisters here in Kenya who are our hosts for the hospitality and warm welcome, which we have not carried in the last 5 years. For the next 5 years, we believe health will play a key role in UK-Kenya strategic health partnership, particularly of our two countries. For those of us who have another function from here, is traffic. We have met availability of some hot drinks. So as you exit, Elder Shem to come and pray for us, as it is a tradition for our country. Where are you? That Shem is trying to avoid the mic.
Thank you so much, Brother Elder John. It's because my spouse prayed, may all our desires of our hearts come to fruition. All the requests that are spoken or unspoken, may they come to fruition as we prepare for. Thank you very much.
Thank
Be
you.
seated. Right.
Thank you.